The Lot Pod is kindly sponsored by Fast Signs. Fast Signs are an established family-run business who have been providing businesses around Leeds and West Yorkshire with effective signs and graphics for almost 30 years. Fast Signs are passionate about helping customers make a statement with signs that are eye-catching, effective and delivered fast.
How do you think Brodie Croft looked today?
Thought he looked like Brodie Croft, but in a better coloured jersey.
Leeds have won back-to-back Rugby League titles. The golden generation finally has its golden fleece. No England game, it seems, is complete without a Ryan Hall try. Jamie Peacock.
Kevin Sinfield.
Rob Burrow.
Jamie Jones Buchanan for Leeds.
It's one of the most popular beards in rugby league.
We just want to be a great friend, and if we can all try and be a bit of a better friend from time to time, I think we have a bit of a better place to live in.
Hello and welcome to the Lot Pod, brought to you by Fast Signs. I am not Eddie. I am Statman Reese. Eddie is away this weekend. It's his turn to have the weekend off. So I am taking the reins. With Eddie being off, it's the first appearance of the season for Jingle Josh. Josh, how are you?
Brilliant, mate. I'm great. I'm glad to be on, making my first appearance of the season. Nice to get off the nudie run, hopefully. And yeah, a good start to the year. I think three wins, 2 losses. I think I'll take that at this point.
I was going to ask you actually about the season, but the first thing I need to ask you about is we've called you Jingle Josh. We actually haven't consulted you on this name. We've started covering everyone's names on the podcast these days. Is Jingle Josh acceptable?
I've had worse. So I mean, yeah, a 10-year career as a session musician summed up with Jingle Josh. I think that just about sums it up, really.
Fair enough. So, as you've said, it's your first appearance this season. We're 5 games in, 3 wins, 2 losses. What's your quick 60-second summary of how you think the season's gone so far?
Yeah, I think I'd give it a 7 out of 10, maybe, something like that. I think it's really good to see the new combos click in. I worried that it would take a lot longer for the spine to kick into gear, actually, but I think Ackers and Croft having played together previously has really helped. I think we've maybe been caught out a couple of times by not playing round 1 rugby, early season rugby, I think sometimes you have to grind out these early games just to get the points on the board, and we've been trying to play our style for later in the year too early, but I haven't got too much criticism as that because we have been winning games. And I thought on last week on Friday, I thought first 20 minutes and first half an hour and the last 10 minutes, we were the better side, and the middle part, Saints were the better side. So plenty of positives to start the year, I would say.
And for those of you that have checked out our YouTube channel, yes, that is a cue for everyone to like and subscribe on our YouTube. We released our first ever short video the other week, and that short video was actually Josh on a transfer update special last season, roughly around August, July time, I believe, saying there's a guy called Lachie Miller that looks quite good in the NRL. I think Leeds should sign him. When did you cast your mind to being a scout, Josh, in the NRL?
Yeah, well, for those that don't know, I actually contacted Gary and I sent him that clip of the pod.
Very much like Eddie was doing exactly the same with Brodie Croft, just willing that, and Duncan was willing to that to happen all of last year.
Yeah. No, well, I just obviously, as people know, I watch a lot of the NRL, and I thought that Lachie Miller had a great start to the year when they had Ponga playing at 6 next to Hastings, of course. but I think pretty much everyone could see that Ponga was a natural fullback and not a number 6. And unfortunately, Lockie got dropped after about 10, 11, 12 rounds and didn't get to play again. And I just remembered how good he was at the start of the year and thought he would probably go really well in the Super League. There's a level of player that's unattainable now in the NRL from the for us to try and get to Super League because of the salary cap over there. And I think Lockie's probably just about as good as you can get for the price that we're dealing with now. And so far so good, I'd say. And I think on a dry track he'll get even better.
So jingles and scouting, what else can't Josh do? Anyway, to the weekly roundup pod. So part 1 is always about where we talk about the results that have happened within the Leeds Rhinos network and also any news that have come from the club. So the first sort of array of fixtures from last week, the women kicked off their Challenge Cup campaign last week with 52-4 win away at Leigh. There was 9 different try scorers in that win for the women, which is a fantastic result. The under-18s also kicked off their season last Thursday, and they unfortunately lost 22-32 to St Helens. It was they were losing 12-14 at half-time, but unfortunately Saints pulled away in that second half. Our under-16 scholarship team actually started their season yesterday, so we're recording this on Thursday evening. So on Wednesday night, the under-16 scholarship started their season away at Hull. And overcame a 14-6 deficit to win 26-16. And the netball team were also in action to last year's champions Loughborough Lightning and unfortunately lost 71-55. We haven't had much news from the Rhinos network this week, but there was news of a certain legend that is due to attend the Hall of Fame dinner in June, and that was Ali Lauiti'iti. And Josh has actually pulled a bit of a clip from a podcast. Josh, do you want to intro this to talk about why we're playing this little segment on Ali Lauiti'iti?
Yeah, I just when I heard about the news of Ali coming back, he was one of my favourite players when I was younger. I thought he was outstanding. And last year, I listened to the Matty Johns podcast, and one of the I think it's either Sunday night or Monday, he does an in-depth roundup with Cooper Cronk, obviously one of the best halves to ever play the game. Matty, also a legend himself. And I remembered last year they did a little 6, 7, 8 minute feature on Ali Lauiti'iti and how great he was. And I just thought, I'll tell you what, I'll go and find that and I'll clip it up, and I've shortened it down. It's about 1.5 minutes or something. And I just thought it might be interesting for people to hear what, the NRL's view on Ali was before we give ours from a Super League perspective.
Perfect. Right, let's play that clip and then we'll give our thoughts on Ali after that.
My favourite part, the legend in focus. And it's Ali Lauiti'iti. This is a treat for me because he was one of my favourite players. Even though I'm playing against him, I just, when you sat down to watch Ali play, you knew it was just going to be such great entertainment. He is one of the most brilliant big men I've ever seen. Yep. Cooper, he had beautiful hands and he had such fast, rapid-fire footwork, which made him just so difficult. 115 games for the Warriors. Now, the tragedy here, he should have been playing at least 250 for the Warriors. I don't know what exactly the nuances of what happened, but he had a fallout with the club and then he went to Leeds. He played 200 games for Leeds, 94 games for Wakefield, so 409 games, Ali. Without talking about the 19 tests for New Zealand, 4 for Samoa. Dalian back row, they're named in Super League's Dream Team numerous times.
The thing that amazed me about Ali Lauiti'iti is how he mesmerised defenders with the ball out in front. Ali Lauiti'iti started moving with the ball in hand. You started watching the ball. And then all of a sudden his footwork come through, he's beaten through defenders and the offload came. When he starts running the ball with one hand around the corner, you're looking at the ball going, where's he going with that? Next minute, he just uses his body, his physicality to bump you off, create space, and then he's got the offload coming through. But he's up there with the greatest ball players in terms of forwards that we've seen. Arthur Beetson comes to mind.
Yep.
Ali Lauiti'iti. and Sonny Bill. There's a lot of them that have the ability to mesmerise defenders with the ball out in front. You actually forget about their body and where their feet's moving, because that's the most important part. Arguably up there with Stacey Jones as the greatest Warriors player, because he had that ability. Mate.
And a great guy as well. Great guy, Ali. So.
There's some high praise in that clip, Josh. Some really, really high praise.
Some very big names as well to compare him with. I mean, I just thought it was great hearing two people so successful in the NRL. They look down on our competition. Well, to be fair, Matty Johns is quite respectful, actually, of the Super League. But to hear them talk about Ali in such high regard, I just thought was great. The one thing that I found interesting was their comment about him. He should have been a 250-game Warriors player. I know you support the Warriors, Reese.
I do.
I tell you, I'm so glad that he wasn't, and that we did get to see him in his prime, because the thing that, I mean, Cooper Cronk touched on it there, the way he was with the ball. But for me, he used to hold the rugby ball like it was a basketball, or like he used to hold it in one hand, and he'd just swat off 2 or 3 defenders and be able to just pop it out around the side. And you think, how on earth did he get that away? I think if you were a centre, you'd absolutely love to play outside him. He was just as a 13, 14-year-old watching him, he just used to blow my mind. I always used to be fans of the backs and the halves, but Ali was the first forward that I really fell in love with as a Leeds player.
So 200 appearances for Leeds, obviously 5 Grand Final championships, 2 World Club challenges, 2 League Shields. Is he the best second row in Leeds Rhinos history?
Oh, you've put me on the spot there.
I mean, we don't prepare for these podcasts, mate. So it's how we do it in true style, even when he's not here.
The one thing I would say for certain, he is the most. I think I would say he's the most skillful and the most exciting. Probably the most powerful as well. You could say there are grafters, there are loyal back rowers, there are the nut truckers that just get the job done. But for sheer entertainment and skill, and he was world class when he came over to us in his prime as a world class player. That sadly we don't see that now.
It's just saying here, actually, Josh, sorry to interrupt, it's actually just saying here, albeit I am looking at Wikipedia, so this could be complete bullshit. But it is saying that when he did get released from his contract to the Warriors, there was 14 other clubs in Australia and England trying to get him. It was described as a worldwide chase for his signature. And, at the time, we hadn't won the league for 32 years. So it was a massive signing for us as a club.
That's incredible when you think of it like that, yeah.
But an outstanding player, a bit of a freak of nature, really. But Ali Lau, we could talk about him all day. He is joining Leeds for the Hall of Fame lunch, which is on the 23rd of June, I believe, and you can actually get tickets for that. It's £50 including the lunch. It'd be really interesting to hear Ali Lau talk. We might just have to start knocking on the Leeds Rhinos door again to see if we can have a good word with Ali Lauiti'iti, because I think that would be a pretty special podcast to do. So what's coming up this week for the Rhinos? So the netball team are playing on Friday night in Hull, of all places, to play London Pulse, with both sides looking to get back to winning ways. If you do want to watch that netball game, that is available on the Sky Sports app. The reserves will kick off against St Helens in round 2 of their season away at Ruskin Park at 6 p.m. on Saturday. Or Friday, I can't remember, either or the or. Saints reserves won their first game against Salford, whereas Leeds will want to get their first win of the season after losing to Lee in round 1. The wheelchair side have got their third and final friendly of pre-season against Wigan in a repeat of last year's grand final. And that's on Saturday at Robin Park Arena at 1:45. And then the women continue their Challenge Cup campaign against Hull KR. Hull KR lost 74-0 to the Giants last week. So, given on the recent form of the Rhinos women, that could be a very entertaining afternoon for one side. That game is on Sunday, and that is away And it's actually the first official meeting between the two clubs in any competition, which is just an interesting fact to display. So, on to part two. No, first week without Super League, it's the Challenge Cup. First question I want to ask you, Josh, before I go through the team news. Looking at ticket sales, I've got my ticket today. There was still a lot of amber in green in some places on the stadium map. Has the magic of the cup gone in the Challenge Cup? Has it gone?
I don't think it's gone, because if I said to you, would you like to win it? I'm sure you would say yeah. It's not a totally forgotten about trophy. However, it doesn't capture the imagination as what it did 20, 30 years ago. And I think a large part of that is similar to the FA Cup in football. It's very unlikely that a lower team or a smaller team playing off a smaller smaller cap have a chance of winning it. I feel like there are less and less upsets these days, and that's probably the gulf which has been formed between the top of the league, Super League, to the bottom of the Super League, and then again to the Championship. But I still think it's got its place, and I still think it's an important part of our history, an important part of our culture over here. It's a really old competition, and I like that about it. I like its heritage. It doesn't quite strike me as much as it used to when I was younger and watching it on the BBC. And I felt like there was more chance of an upset.
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago. What do you think, Reid?
I mean, a bit like you. I want to win the Challenge Cup. I want to win silverware. I do think, I don't know if this is a Rhinos problem, because, last year Wigan brought about 1,000 fans. Saints are bringing about 900 again. Last year it was 8,000, I think, or 8,500. Boxing Day was 9 and a bit thousand. So at the moment, I'd have to look at the figures, but Boxing Day is just as high attendance-wise, if not higher, than the first round of the Challenge Cup that we're appearing in. So I do think a bit of the magic is out of the cup. Obviously, it's an extra fee for everyone to pay, but I said before the draw came out, I wanted an away day in the Championship. That's what I really wanted, and I do think Super League sides need to come in. And there's less chances for a shock, I think, but that Batley versus Castai does entice me somewhat. I do think Batley could pull off a surprise there, especially on their pitch and their ground as well. But I certainly hope the magic of the cup hasn't gone, because the Challenge Cup is a traditional day out. I would implore anyone to come and get behind the guys, because my next question on this list, Josh, was: would you have rather won last week's game against St Helens, or would you rather win on Friday night in the Challenge Cup?
Yeah.
I'd obviously rather win them both, by the way. I'm just going to put that as an absolute caveat. But if you're going to win one of those games, which one would you want to win?
Personally, I would rather win. If we had to choose one or the other, I think I'd rather win this Friday, because I think we have a real. I think you do have more of a chance of winning the Challenge Cup than you do the Grand Final. Everybody knows that. So there is some sort of magic there. I mean, Lee won it last year, which I suppose was a great for them. And so I've kind of contradicted myself a little bit. I think a less expected Super League team can win it, but I don't think a Championship team or a very bottom Super League team. But I think the problem is, so for example, the Boxing Day tie, there's such an appetite for rugby league at that point where nobody has seen rugby for a while, and everybody's off work because it's Boxing Day. So I think that's one element. I think with the Challenge Cup, I think if we did away with the loop fixtures and made more of the Challenge Cup, perhaps that might draw more people in. I don't know. I also think the pricing of it, we spoke earlier today, I think the pricing of it is probably too expensive. I had a quick look earlier. If you're a season ticket holder, I had a quick look in the Eastern Terrace. So it's £330 according to the website for gold membership in the Eastern Terrace for your gold membership. It's £33 including your booking fee for a game. So 11 home tie. You don't really gain. All you're gaining with your season ticket is the 2 free loop fixtures, if that makes sense. Which I don't think's that great of a reward, because I suppose you get things in your package stuff, but people really, they're buying you're buying your membership to go to the game. Now, if there was if it gave you access to say the first round of the Challenge Cup as part of your membership, I think that would engage people. I think you'd see the crowd much higher, and that would engage people.
I think you would, but you can't always guarantee a home tie, can you? Especially if we're talking about getting in earlier and playing away to a championship team.
That's the problem, isn't it? Or if you said you get your 11 home games and then you have the 2 loop fixtures. If you said you could swap a loop fixture for a Challenge Cup tie or something like that. So say if it was drawn away, you'd keep your loop fixture, or if it was drawn at home, maybe you'd swap it for the. I'm just kind of speaking off the cuff, just trying to think of ideas. Or at the very least, if you remember, you get 50% off your ticket or something like that. Just to,
I think that's the better route personally. I mean, you look at, go to Leeds United or for the League Cup or the FA Cup in the early rounds. You pay probably half the price you do normally. You normally pay 41 quid, aren't you? But it's normally about 20 quid. And I think that's probably the right model to go after. And maybe now with 2 home draws early on in 2 years in a row with a fairly low crowd, they might change their tact for next season, but we'll have to wait and see. But focusing on Friday night, 2 players are back for the Rhinos, Lasone and Momirovski. Saints' Curtis Sirinen is back and Tommy Makinson is unavailable. Firstly, Josh, Momirovski, I've found the feedback on Momirovski quite interesting. I don't think he's been getting the credit he deserves. Do you think, whilst Rees did play okay last week, do you think people would have seen the difference that Momirovski makes when he's on the pitch?
Yeah, well, we've spoken a lot about Momirovski, haven't we? And I'm a big fan of him. I think he offers a lot. He's a really intelligent centre. His defensive work is big, but also he's a proper winger's centre. He creates the space for Ash. They often interchange, and sometimes Ash will step inside, and they were doing that again on Friday with Rees, but it just doesn't have the same effectiveness. I actually think we really missed Momirovski on Friday. And also what people may not understand is, or realise is, I remember listening to an interview with Trent Robinson last year, and he name-checked Momirovski as one of the leaders at the Roosters. And he was part of their 5-person leadership team, or whatever you want to call it. I think he probably is a real influence on game day. And just another experienced pro who can talk to the defence, organise the defence. And I think we really missed him. And I really rate Rees. And I think he did really well last year in centre, but I think this year we're going to step up. And Momirovski was missed on Friday. I think he's a big in for this week, and I think we'll see a better version of that left edge this Friday.
So, do you think Momirovski for you straight back into the side, hoping with him being fit?
Yeah, I don't know what the injury was. If it was something. I wouldn't want to rush him back and risk another 2 or 3 games out, because to me he is an important player. But if he's good to go and the physios deem that, then yeah, straight back in for me. He's definitely in our starting 13, and he's one of those senior players where no matter who deputises for him, good job or not, I think he's just straight back in for what he offers the team.
And Lasone's back. Obviously, he's had 3 games off after his yellow card at Hull KR in round 2. Have you missed him in the last 3 games?
Yeah, good question. 'Cause he was pretty awful in that game as well at Hull KR. Have we missed him? Good question. I think for this Friday we need big bodies on the field against Saints. So whether we did or didn't miss him in the last few weeks, I think we do. I think he will be a welcome addition this Friday. They're such a big pack, Saints, and they're very mobile. So we could do with the Lizzoni at the end of last year, not the one at the start of last year or the one at the start of this year. We could do the one who'd hit his strides and was playing well, was whacking blokes and looked fit and mobile. We could do with that impact on Friday.
Yeah, and in round one, we did get that impact from Sony, but I think I kind of look at Sony's ban as a bit of a blessing in disguise in a way, because he was just coming off his injury, so he'd missed part of pre-season as well. He's had 3 weeks off now to keep fit. He's not been injured, so I think if I'm going to put a positive spin on things, which I know we like to do on this podcast, it has given him 3 weeks to get almost have that mini pre-season after the first 2 games and come back in. But I think you're right. A game against Saints, I think he'll be a welcome addition. I would have thought the same against Catalan, but the pack rose to the occasion against Catalan, so I'm a bit like, I think we have missed him. I think we probably missed him last week, and we probably missed him a bit in that league game. But I've also seen the quality in the team to be able to rise up. So let's talk about lineup then, Josh. So does the back line write itself?
Yeah.
So we're talking. So Miller, Roberts, Newman, Momorovsky, Hanley, and Crackers.
Yeah, that's what he'll go with. Again, not a huge fan of what Roberts has delivered this year. I thought he had possibly one of his worst games on Friday. He will be selected, so I hope he manages to gain. Let's put it like that. I hope his confidence hasn't been knocked from Friday, and he's able to put in a bit of a better shift, because we'll need it, because we have just played them. They saw the success they got down that side. They'll be peppering him all night, I would imagine. So we need Harry to help him, and we need him to get his confidence back and, maintain some confidence and have a good game.
Do you think that'll be Saints' game plan, just put him under pressure again?
I think it'll be part of it, yeah. I think Bentley played really well on that edge last week. So if Bentley and Harry can cover for him, and Reece is on the other side, isn't he, with Momorovsky and Hanley? I think, I'm as happy as I can be with that. I can't wait till Fusty's back, but we know he's going to get selected. So I think they will target him. I think the game last week was lost personally when Akers went off the field. I felt like we had such control over that game, and Akers and Croft were linking up so well. I love to see it, and I'll throw Miller in there as well. And I think we were in control. I think Akers went off. Jared came on, not to target Jared, but it wasn't his best game, sadly. It just little things like from dummy half, the ball wasn't going in the breadbasket. You lose that second, their forwards are a metre closer. And we couldn't get a roll on, plus the referee was letting them lie on. All those things, it's like we didn't have the experience to combat that, whereas I felt we were under control under Akers. So this week, I'd like to see, if we're going to bring Jared on, personally, I think the best time to bring him on in that role is if we're needing an injection of pace, or just some energy, some new fresh energy. Whereas on Friday, I felt like we were in control. And obviously, it's said with hindsight, but I was sat with Duncan at the game, and to be fair to Duncan, he called it. He said we've been poor the first 15, 20 minutes after half time. If we're going to lose it, it'll be then. And sure enough, that's what happened. And it coincided with Akers being off the field. I think this week we need to be a bit smarter with the rotations. And personally, if I would leave Akers and Croft on together as long as possible. If things are losing control, maybe that's when you bring Jared on to inject some energy. But I don't know. That's where I felt. And then I think what I'd love to see is for Frawley to have a big game this week. I feel like he knows what to do. Like the brain is telling him what to do. He's got a good football brain. But can the body do it? You know, he's kicking out on the full. He knows there were good times to kick and good areas to kick in, but he just kicked it out with touch and it landed in rosette. You know, I want to see a good game from him on Friday.
Agreed. So, talking about the pack then, who are your starting props?
Yeah, I think I'd have Lozone on the bench. Mick, definitely a starter. And then between Sangare and Holroyd, I quite liked Holroyd coming on last week. He came on when their pack was tired, and he got a lot of quick play of the balls. He wasn't going for meters. You could see it. He wasn't trying to get the post contact meters. He got to the ground. He got up quick, and we were able to get a roll on. Ackers was able to distribute the ball real quick and get the ball to Crawley or Croft with space. I liked that impact. So I'm tempted maybe to do that again because we looked good with that rotation, in my opinion. So I would go Mick, Sangare to start, Holroyd, Lozone, bench.
Fair enough. I'm starting Holroyd in my side. I think he's a starting prop throughout for me. And then I think second row is actually a debate this week as well because we haven't quite seen McDonald of last year yet, and we know there's a bit of illness in the camp. Bentley, I thought, probably had his best game of the season last week against Saints. Obviously, Reese is now probably moving back into that second row spot as well, with Bomorowski back in centre. So, who are your second rows? Is it going to be Bentley and Martin?
It is, yeah. Bentley and Martin. And the thing is, both of them can play 80 minutes. That's the thing. Yeah, and I mean, to your point, putting Holroyd to start, I wouldn't complain at that at all. But yeah, Bentley, Martin, and Smith as your back three. Jared on the bench, and then you would have Lozone, let's say Sangare then, and then it would be between McDonald and Gudemond for that final bench spot. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'd go Gudemond. I like McDonald a lot. But I think Gudemond's in form. He feels slightly bigger to me. Maybe you could play him on an edge / in the middle, do a bit of a utility role there. Yeah, I'm not.
I think
sure.
my personal opinion. I think we need as much size and replacement up the middle as possible in this game, and I think that's might be why I might drift towards Gudemond because he can play in that middle, and he's played well in that middle as well this year. So I think I'd be tempted to have Gudemond on that bench as well as Sony and Sangare, just to give us that strength up front and through the middle to have that continuous fitness on the pitch. So if there was one key battle, Josh, if you're going to pick one player versus another player, one St Helens, one Leeds, one St Helens, what's your key battle?
I think maybe Ackers and Clark.
Yeah.
I think when we were on top last week, it was when Ackers was on the field and running his best work, doing his best work. If we can get Ackers doing that again, and if Lockie Miller can step Darryl Clark again, I'll be a happy man. And if we can do that for 80 minutes, I want to see that 80-minute performance this week. We're getting into the season now. We've blown off the cobwebs and got the season going. I think we can start to look at an 80-minute performance now.
I think I was going to go for Croft and Lomax. Actually, you actually think about it on paper. There is this is a quality game. There's some great players on. Yeah, there's so many great players on both sides, which is more and more the reason that you should make sure you're down there at the stadium on Friday night to support the Rhinos. Josh, thanks very much for coming on the weekly roundup tonight for your first appearance. Before we finish, what's your prediction for tomorrow's game?
Leeds 13+. And Momorowski to get his first try this season.
I'm going to go Leeds 24, St Helens 12. I'll do Eddie's prediction as well. Leeds will win by 64 points. Hanley will get 5 tries from that basis. Thank you, Josh, for joining us. Thanks for bringing on the stuff about Ali Lauiti'iti. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Enjoy the game on Friday evening.